Positive reinforcement has been shown to increase motivation in the horse. It can be adapted to help a horse learn a new behavior, to be calm in a certain situation, to gain confidence when encountering new objects, and so much more. In addition to principles, I will also be letting you in on some major fundamentals of training that every person who owns a horse should know. A fundamental is a tool that you can keep in mind and apply as you wish or need through your training processes. Positive reinforcement is the first fundamental that I want to cover in this series. Positive reinforcement is a up-and-coming type of training that we can use with our horses. People commonly use it with dogs, however, it is so effective for our horses. Some believe that clicker training is the sole type of training that one should use, and if you do positive reinforcement, you can't use any other methods. But I would like to encourage you to think about this a little bit differently and think about all of your training tools and techniques and methods as simply tools that you have in your tool belt that you can pull out and use in a specific situation if the tools that you normally go to first aren't working, or if you want to try something new. Every horse is so individual and so unique. There is no cookie cutter step 1 through 74 that can help you train your horse. There just isn't. You're always going to run into individual problems and individual challenges and individual wins. So don't get into the mindset that you have to subscribe to this training method or that training method. They're all viable and they can all be used in ethical, non-harmful, kind, and empathetic ways with our horses. Positive reinforcement is a mere piece of the intricate puzzle that is horse training. There is so much to this subject. No one person could possibly ever learn it all. So, once again, don't get stuck thinking that this is the only way. It's not. It's simply a tool that I want to teach you about and that I will be using with Sundancer. To truly understand positive reinforcement's role in training, we must revisit B.F. Skinner's findings in operant conditioning.
Operant conditioning is a method of shaping behavior using either punishment or reward of behavior. So you're either encouraging behavior or discouraging behavior. The consequences of the behavior determine the probability of the behavior being repeated. In this way, an animal learns the desired behavior. Moving into our chart here, in our first quadrant, we have positive reinforcement, which is sometimes notated by an R+. And positive reinforcement means to give something desirable. The most classic example of positive reinforcement is giving a treat. Next in our chart, we have negative reinforcement, which is sometimes notated using an R-. And negative reinforcement is when you take away something desirable. The best example of negative reinforcement is when you got grounded from your phone. Moving into the bottom row of our chart, first we see positive punishment, which is sometimes notated by a P+. And positive punishment means to add something undesirable. Spanking and beating are a good example of this. And last, we have negative punishment, which is notated by a P-. And negative punishment means to take away something undesirable.
Within this table, we also see the traditional training method of pressure and release, represented in the negative punishment quadrant. Though sometimes pressure and release have been spoken about in a negative light, it is absolutely necessary for a horse in the human world to understand pressure, how to deal with it, and how to make it go away so they feel like they control the pressure. You can accomplish teaching a horse how to respond to pressure in a safe, calm, and ethical way without escalating pressure into pain. That's very important, and this is a topic we'll cover later on in this series. Positive reinforcement has been shown to increase motivation in the horse. It can be adapted to help a horse learn a new behavior, to be calm in a certain situation, to gain confidence when encountering new objects, and so much more. Successful positive reinforcement begins by the human deciding on a desired behavior, breaking that behavior down into the smallest possible steps called approximations. Then we set this up in what's called a shaping chart. Sorry. So this shaping chart lays out all of the approximations or steps that you need the horse to learn in order to complete the final complete desired behavior. Then you, during the session, will reward your horse for the smallest try, even if he makes the slightest movement towards what you're asking. We'll go ahead and reward and work our way up the approximations chart until the horse has learned the full behavior. During the session, to mark the desired behavior, you'll make a distinct clicking sound that you'll repeat in every future session to let the horse know that they're doing the correct thing or that they're moving towards doing the correct thing. Now, some people carry a clicker. I personally like to have my hands free, so I'll just use my mouth and make a click. As long as the sound is consistent, it does not matter, and it doesn't even have to be a click. You can use whatever bridge signal that you would like to use. The click needs to happen at the exact second that the horse begins to move towards doing the desired behavior. The click is then promptly followed by a food reward, and the reward should be forage based. You can simply use hay in a bag like you've seen me do with Sundancer, or you can use hay pellets. They fit nicely in a little fanny pack. That's what I use. There are also side treat pouches that you can get to nicely store your food rewards in. You don't want to give your horse high sugar processed treats or fruits and vegetables as your reward, because these high sugar foods tend to get the horses way too excited. And then they're slightly food stressed and they are too focused on the treat to focus on the behavior and the process of learning. This is one of the pitfalls that some people run into when they try positive reinforcement without a full understanding of this training tool. Another thing I need to mention here is that often horse people object to the idea of giving their horse treats because they are of the mindset that doing so will make your horse pushy or rude or that they won't listen. However, this is a stereotype, as a horse will only become pushy if they have been directly or indirectly trained by a human to be pushy in order to receive food. They don't just come out of the womb being pushy for food. And in fact, if you're going to use positive reinforcement, it's beneficial to teach your horse treat mode, which is where the horse learns not to pester you for the reward, but instead to stand and wait patiently for you to bring the reward to them. So all chances of pushy behavior are completely eliminated by that one step. Be sure to keep your positive reinforcement sessions engaging for your horse by asking for 2 or more behaviors during the session, and be sure to move back and forth between behavior A and B, possibly C or D, whenever your horse gets bored or loses confidence in the task that they're doing at the time. Your newer tasks are going to require a little more focus and possibly a little bit more patience from the horse. So if you are asking them for that harder behavior over and over and over, it's easy for them to get excuse me, a little bit discouraged or a little bit disinterested, or they will lose their confidence because you're asking them to do a hard thing. It's like if you're 8 and you visit a gymnastics class and on the first day you're doing somersaults and it goes wonderful, you've got this, you're feeling great when you leave. And then on day 2, when you get there, the instructor starts asking you to do a backflip. Well, you can try and you can try over and over. However, it's a little bit hard and you're not going to feel as confident as you did the day before. So we always want to try and keep our horse's confidence built up and keep that confidence high. And varying the behaviors that you ask for during a positive reinforcement session is the best way to do that. Also, by giving your horse a somersault like easy task that they always can go back to, you will constantly be able to make sure that they feel confident. When you introduce something new, introduce it a couple times and then go back to your easy somersault behavior so that you can build your horse's confidence back up before asking for the more difficult behavior again. And by difficult, I don't mean that it has to be necessarily physically strenuous for the horse. Something can be very difficult for them that is as simple as allowing their hindquarters to be touched. Especially for some of these Mustangs, they are so uncomfortable with that, and just allowing you to touch them there once is hard enough. So then we need to retreat back to our easier behavior, ask for that a couple times, build up that confidence, and then we can return to what is difficult for the horse.
This is a clip of one of our other Mustangs, Dietz, in his self-haltering process using positive reinforcement. He is near the end of his approximations chart for self-haltering. And so once I get the halter all the way on and clipped, I click and promptly follow up the click with a food reward. And that's the positive reinforcement in action.
Targeting is a very simple task that you can always fall back on, and one that many positive reinforcement hello Troy it's one that many positive reinforcement trainers use to allow the horse to learn the meaning of the click and solidify an easy behavior for them to always revert back to. This week with Sundancer, I will be introducing the positive reinforcement tool we have discussed today by having him target my hand. Then I will be moving from that behavior into him allowing me to touch him. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next video in Sundancer's journey. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.